Hi, this is Anthony. Welcome back to my show. If you're watching this video, you're probably interested in true crime or unsolved mysteries, and I do a wide variety of different topics, including true crime right there. Here's unsolved mysteries. I love the Jack the Ripper case, D.B. Cooper case, because I live in the Pacific Northwest, Zodiac. So if you're interested in things like that, be sure to check out my videos. I also talk about all kinds of other things like unknown islands or little known islands, side hustles, spies. I have various polls and investing in stocks, so I like to talk about that. Anyway, today the question is, and I've gotten this over the years many times, about Jack the Ripper letters. So we go to AI, and this agrees with what I happen to think. But my question is, are any of the Jack the Ripper letters real? And AI tells us, while most of the Jack the Ripper letters are widely considered hoaxes, some like the Dear Boss letter and the Saucy Jack postcards are believed to have been written by the same person, potentially a journalist, to keep the story alive. However, there's no definitive proof that any of the letters came from the actual killer. And then I'm not going to read all of it, but the journalist theory, popular theory, suggests that a journalist or journalists fabricated these letters, including the Dear Boss letter, to generate public interest and keep the story in the news. Hundreds of letters were sent to authorities and the press during the Whitechapel murders, with many clearly identified as hoaxes. No definitive proof. Despite the theories and analyses, no letter has been definitively proven to be from the real Jack the Ripper. If you go to the Wikipedia article, Dear Boss letter is one of them, and it was like addressed to Dear Boss. That's why it's called that. And it pretty much says the same thing as far as it not being authentic. Let's go to authenticity. In the years following the Ripper murders, police officials stated that they believed both the Dear Boss letter and the Saucy Jack postcards were elaborate hoaxes, most likely penned by a local journalist. Initially, these suspicions received little publicity, with the public believing the press articles and the unknown murderer having sent, or that the unknown murderer had sent numerous messages taunting the police and threatening further murders. The correspondence became one of the enduring legends of the Ripper case. However, the opinions of modern scholars are divided upon which, if any, of the letters should be considered genuine. The Dear Boss letter is one of the three named most frequently as potentially having been written by the killer, and a number of authors have tried to advance their theories as to the Ripper's identity by comparing handwriting samples of suspects to the writing within the Dear Boss letter. Like many documents related to the Ripper case, the Dear Boss letter disappeared from the police files shortly after the investigation into the murders had ended. The letter may have been kept as a souvenir by one of the investigating officers. In November 1987, which was, 99 years later, the letter was returned anonymously to the Metropolitan Police, whereupon Scotland Yard recalled all documents relating to the Whitechapel murders from the Public Records Office, now called the National Archives in Kew. Journalist confession. In 1931, a journalist named Fred Best was reported to have confessed that he and a colleague at the Star newspaper named Tom Bullen had written the Dear Boss letter, the Saucy Jack postcard, and other hoax messages purporting to be from the Whitechapel murderer, whom they together had chosen to name Jack the Ripper in order to maintain acute public interest in the case and generally maintain high sales of their publication. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Very clearly, most experts conclude that these were hoaxes by reporters. I agree. If you have a theory that bases your suspect on handwriting of these, then that may call into question your theory. I think in most cases, murderers don't communicate with the press. Obviously, BTK and the Zodiac killer in California are exceptions, but in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of people, Jack the Ripper, the actual murderer, was not corresponding with the press. So what are your thoughts? Do you disagree? I'd love to hear from you. Leave your comments in the comment section. I always read them, and eventually I get around to responding to them. If you haven't already, please do hit like and subscribe and check out my other videos. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and hope to hear from you in the future.